100 people join CrossFit a day, 1,000 people, and maybe 10,000 or 100,000 people join CrossFit a day. And now I have an avenue to speak to them about certain things that they might never know about. Yo, for the past 4 years, I played on a men's softball league with me and my buddies from high school for the most part. We get together every Wednesday and we get our fucking asses destroyed in a game of softball. Our first year, we didn't win a game. We played for 4 years. First year, we go 0-10. I remember it was something that was kind of cool. We're like, hey, you guys want to get together and play softball? Like, yeah, let's do it. So I go to Dick's Sporting Goods. I get the team a bat. It was purple and we would hit with that bat. It'd make a weird noise when you hit it. We lost all 10 games. Enter year 2. In year 2, somewhere early in the year, another team goes, guys, you got to get a new bat. The whole reason you guys suck so bad is because your bat sucks. And we noticed that the other teams would have a handful of bats, and I knew that I spent $80 on the bat, and we all knew that there were bats out there that were upwards of $400. So we decided to chip in, and we got a new bat. And wouldn't you know it, we went from maybe having one person on the team who could hit a home run to now everybody being capable of hitting a home run, and everyone else is hitting the ball harder. And you know the story. We upgraded, and we were like, oh, cool, it makes a lot of sense. We were so bad then because of the bat. Now we have a new bat. Everything's going to be better. And we ended up winning a couple of games. We never won any more than 2 games any certain year. So we played for 4 years. We didn't win a game. And then we won a couple of games for 4 years in a row. We played in the summer. This year we decided to play in the fall. That was our 5th season, right? So we won a grand total of maybe 5 games in 4 years. We suck. That's never something that's been very fun for me to do, is go and get destroyed in a game of softball. I'm not good at softball. I don't really practice getting better at softball, so I understand that it's kind of what it is. However, this 5th one where we're playing in fall now, someone decided that it was a good idea to sign up for the A League. The first 4 years we played in the B League. No one really gives a shit. Everyone's very relaxed. Half of the people are drunk off their asses when they show up to play, and everyone knows how that goes. And in the B League, we won 5 games in 4 years. Now we're in the A League. So in our first game, we lose. We played our second game last night, and we were getting kind of our asses destroyed again, but it was really weird during the game. The other team was being quiet, and they were not very chatty with us other than making snarky comments. It was very odd, different than we've ever seen before, and we thought, oh, maybe this is what happens in the A League. But after the game, an individual walks up to us and he goes, guys, we want to let you know, and we don't care. It doesn't matter! But that bat that you're using is illegal. And we all look at each other like, what? Like, what do you mean? You guys have bats like this too. We got this like 3 years ago. We've been using it ever since. It's way better. And they go, yeah, but that's a senior league bat. And all of us look around again like, what the fuck does a senior league bat mean? And they go, look, it says senior on it. I go, yeah, it says senior, but like, what the fuck does that mean? They're like, you're really only allowed to use those in leagues when you're 40 or 50 or years older. And I guess it's entirely against the rules to be using a senior league bat. We had no fucking idea. Like, how do you know? It's like, well, we've played in leagues now there was one individual who'd played since they were 16 and they're now 36. So 2 decades of softball, and 2 decades of softball into the freaking sport. This guy can look at a ball coming off of a bat and say that thing is illegal. And then also it'd be like looking at anything that you've done with your career, profession, or for an extended period of time. You can almost look at something and say that thing is out of the ordinary. What's going on with that thing? So when this 2-decade player walks over and points out the bat, he goes, I am 99% sure there's something going on with that bat. It probably is a senior bat. He was spot on. It says senior on it. I looked into it a little bit. I Googled what's the difference between a regular and a senior bat. And then there's this comment on here that goes, swing one and you will notice the difference. Let me put it this way. The best shaved bat does not compare to a senior bat. Bullets through the infield are probably 40 to 60 extra feet. It's like the magic bullet. 300 hitters become 500 and 500 becomes 700. Players that couldn't reach 280 in their prime can now clear 325 feet. And that was their humble opinion. And that's exactly what we saw. Like I told you, we had one guy who could hit a home run with the old bat that I had, to now the entire team being capable of hitting a home run with this new bat, this new illegal senior league bat that we've been playing with for so long. And the issue, I suppose, is that it makes it rather dangerous for the other team to be playing, namely like the pitcher and the infielder. So if you hit one on the freaking barrel, the thing comes off like a rocket, and it does. Because when you're 40, 50 years old, they're now assuming that you guys are not as strong and they need the extra oomph in the bat, and there's a factor on there, the BPF factor, the bat performance factor. And there's a certain threshold that you need to be able to use when you play in an open division softball league, which we are in. And the biggest difference here is that when we were in the B League before, no one gave a shit. It was still illegal, but now that we're we're in the A-League, they're taking notice of this sort of shit. And in my head, all I could think is that, oh my god, we didn't win a game the first year with the bats that we had, and we've played for a handful of years now, and I said we had like 5 wins over the course of the past 4 years. We've never won a game. We're 0-40, and now we're in the A-League. We're 0-40 in the B-League, and now we're in the A-League. Like, what the fuck is going on? Every single year, they give out a rule book. It's 80 pages long or so, and it's this thick, and no one ever looked at it. It was actually just thrown into the garbage can. It's like, we know how to play baseball. Hit the ball, run to first base, throw the ball to first base, get them out, yada yada. But when you now enter the A-League where everyone gives a shit, you gotta kind of take into account exactly those rules. The interesting thing is that the individual who had played for 2 decades goes, if you were to hurt somebody, then you're in big trouble. And not only are we in big trouble, but the umpire behind the plate is supposed to check the bats before the game. So the guy standing right there the whole game would have been fucked, because it's up to him to protect everybody else on the field. And that brings me full circle to why I wanted to make this video in the first place. I have a YouTube channel where I continuously say that if I had 100 subscribers on it, I would get a dozen views. But I want as many subscribers as possible to get as many views as possible to spread a message about certain things. The message here is in relation to this bet. We were a team of people who we think we're smart, but we don't know shit about fuck.
I don't know shit about fuck.
We've been using a bet designed for 50-year-olds for the past 4 years, and when we found out, we still didn't believe it. And that is exactly what I experienced with a handful of people in the CrossFit community. I make videos about no reps. I make videos about performance-enhancing drugs. I make videos about the rule book and the leaderboard. I made one yesterday on Colton Burton's and the leaderboard, and I pointed out something that I don't know how many people would have noticed, but if Travis Mayer's one score was no good and he didn't record the weights, you would think that every single one of his scores would be no good.
Is that what you think? You think?
But that's what happens after you've spent a shitload of time in the sport. So that guy who was on the other team has spent 20 years playing softball. He knows by looking at a bat that there's something wrong with it. He can tell that when you hit it, it's like, there's something going on over there. And I kind of feel like, and I'm not trying to say I'm anything special, but I think that I have a little bit of that going on. I just look at something different than a whole lot of people might look at it. And there are a lot of other people who do this too, but they might not have YouTube channels. These people usually kind of feed me information and I make stuff for them. Something that pops out to me very vividly is something like a ring muscle up there in my rings. Some people say, is this any good? And they're locked out at the top of their rings for a second at a time. And I go, that's probably too good. It's like you're holding the muscle up too long up there. They go, what do you mean I'm holding it too long? You're the no rep guy. And I go, yeah, I'm the no rep guy, but I was also a competitor. And it's like you want to hit the minimum threshold while still doing it as good as possible. Meaning at the top of the rings, there has to be a split second in which your elbows are locked out, your shoulders are over the top of the rings and past the rings. And the biggest issue with this is that when people are hitting that elbows and shoulders extended at the top of the rings, they are behind the straps and behind the rings. That doesn't count. That is a no rep. I put up a video the other day of my squats, and a lot of people are like, those squats are no good. And a lot of people just thought they were no good because it was a low bar and it looked weird. Just because something looked weird doesn't it mean that it's a no rep.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Maybe it makes you look at it a little bit closer, but when you look at it closer, it's about the hip crease below the knee. And if you can see, as it showed in that dotted line in that video the other day, those were below parallel, and some people just don't know. And if I want to tie this back into my softball thing, it'd be almost like I started a movement against softball bats, and everyone in every softball league everywhere looked at somebody who was swinging a softball bat and like, wow, that came off that guy's bat really good. That bat has to be illegal. But then you think it's fucking Sammy Sosa. It's like Sammy Sosa hit that ball, and you don't know who Sammy Sosa is. You just saw that the ball was destroyed, and you're like, okay, that's illegal. It's like, well, actually, he hit 660 home runs, and he took steroids when he was in the majors, so it makes sense that that's the way that the freaking ball came off the bat. It's not the bat, it was the player. That was a weird analogy, but you know what I mean. Everything comes with a whole lot of different inputs. You take all the inputs in, and then you give one single output. And the way that things are working is it's like people think A equals B. Good hit ball equals illegal bat. Weird looking repetitions equal no rep. You're a dominant athlete in a sport, you're taking steroids. And I don't say that either. I say that, I actually said I think Justin Medeiros is natural. I think Justin Medeiros is natural. My opinion is that. And then of course I made the video on Tia Toomey, and a lot of the people on the Tia Toomey video are just like, of course, everybody uses performance enhancing drugs. He's just stating the obvious. And I'm like, actually, I don't think that everyone's using performance enhancing drugs. And then everyone also is like, like, she competes in the Olympics. If you compete in the Olympics, you're a natural athlete. It's like, well, actually, if you had any sort of information about the way the Olympics do work, people cite the freaking documentary Icarus all the time. And if you know anything about anything, everybody can get away with it if you know enough about it. And if anything, if you can get through it at the level of the Olympics, it's easy to get through it at the level of CrossFit. But I'm not saying that all you do is you take in as much information as possible and then you make an educated decision upon all of the information that you've taken in. So that is my lump sum tie-in of everything that I've talked about in every single video. I brought up a handful of references about the other videos and how people will say, I don't see how this is any good for the sport of CrossFit and you're just a piece of shit talker. But what I want is I'm going to do some of that. And I'm going to do some of that because it's going to bring more people in. And I always say I want more people so that then I can put out something else and I can save some people from making the mistake that my softball team made, which was using an illegal softball bat for 3+ years and possibly hurting people and looking like a fucking idiot. When you then join an A-League that you have no business being in, and then having an A-League player of 20 years walk over to you and go, hey, you guys are cheating, and we have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. So there are people out there, right? Maybe 100 people join CrossFit a day, 1,000 people, and maybe 10,000 or 100,000 people join CrossFit a day, and now I have an avenue to speak to them about certain things that they might never know about. It's very plausible that someone flips on the YouTube station and they say, hey, Andrew Hiller made a video about the Rogue Invitational leaderboard, how Colton Burton's got fucked out of a spot. They can click on that and they can figure out that, oh, wait a minute, there's an issue here. The first day they join CrossFit, it's not going to take them 3 years to figure this shit out and have their minds blown when they're like, wait a minute, they don't look at the leaderboards? What? Same thing with that workout 3 in the quarterfinals. There were people in that instance that had been doing CrossFit for 5 to 10 years and they're like, wait a minute, they're not going to look that thing over? And the only reason they know about it is because of people like myself and people like Mike Halpin, and there was a handful of stuff through the morning chalk up. But that is where I see myself doing good. And it's because I do things like play softball that I always know what it's like to be in the situation of somebody who is uninformed that becomes informed and feels like a fucking idiot because you didn't know the entire time. So this will just be my video that I kind of send to anybody as a reference for this is why I'm doing it. You think I just talk shit? Watch this. If you still think so, I probably wasn't going to change your mind anyway. That's all I got. Andrew Hiller out.